All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. This is great. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Nigel Smith. I'm the proud founder and CEO of Zurena LLC. So Zurena is a beverage company headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we are trying to change the world. I'm actually trying to introduce a new category in the whole drink mixing world. Doesn't exist
Oh,
yet.
nice.
A
Fantastic.
premium universal drink mixer. It's my late grandpa's recipe from Trinidad and Tobago that I'm taking to the world. It's named after my two beautiful daughters, Zuri and Rena. And these drinks are just amazing. You add them to anything,
Oh, wow.
any spirits, wine, beer, bubbly, makes an instant high quality tropical cocktail in seconds. If you don't drink alcohol, you can add it to club soda, juices, teas, makes instant mocktails or hot toddies in seconds. And again, there's nothing in the world quite like this. I've been on this magical entrepreneurial journey for about a year. So
Hmm.
my background, the cool accent is from Trinidad and Tobago. I have one of those really cool American stories. Came here not knowing what the world was going to offer. Ended up at some of the most admired academic institutions and businesses, brands out there. And it's just been an amazing, fascinating journey, which I'm happy to get into. And I'm just loving this new phase of entrepreneurship. Um, you asked what I'm passionate about. There's so many things. I may just share a couple if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
Um, so, so I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. We are the heart of Trinidad and Tobago is our carnival. So we are a very diverse, amazing country that, we have this amazing infusion of cultures and everything culminates in carnival every year. And, carnival is that one time a year that we celebrate life more than anything else, right? It's that self-expression. It's that you do you, I do me. And I'm trying to do that through my platform at Zurena. So at the core of what we do, we have this notion of uplifting spirits, that belief that we have an obligation to be happy, to be healthy, to optimize every moment and to try to optimize the moments of those in your circles. So if you think about that as a foundation, these beverages are a tactic. They're a way of making that mantra happen. The other thing I'm really passionate about is unearthing value that is not necessarily obvious. So that eureka moment that tends to happen.
Yep.
There's something powerful about, we have something here. We didn't think about this application, and now it's like, wow, this is really, really value creating, right? And to some extent, when I think about my product, and I'm happy to get into that story as well. I stumbled into what is now, I think, a really disruptive beverage that I think is going to change the world. So there's something to me about, I spent a long time in my life, my prior professional life, really trying to find disruptive startups. But where I got a lot of value was when I found some of them was like, have you thought about this market or this opportunity? And suddenly it's like, what was great now became even greater. And that just got my juices flowing.
Fantastic, fantastic. So a couple of things. I had a really, really good friend in Canada when I used to live there, who was Trini, and she introduced me to all the Trini foods, all the Trini beverages, and I'm like, this is great. I love it. We used to go to
Hold up.
Trini.
Did she take you to Trinidad Carnival?
No. This is in Canada. So I lived in Toronto.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, if she was a real true Trini friend, she would have taken you to Trinidad Carnival one year. So.
No, she didn't. Just introduce me to the foods. And I love everything. I love everything.
Yeah.
All Trini foods. So that's fantastic. And then I love the way you were talking about the sort of the key thing was changing the world, right? Improving people's lives. I love the happiness angle, and I think too few startups look at it from how much money can I make, how rich can I get, and not how can I improve the world, how can I do better for people.
Yeah, I mean, so one of my big inspirations in life is Bob Marley, right? So first of all, he died when he was 36. I'm a little bit older than 36 right now. And I've been blessed to have traveled the world. I've gone to most of the continents, and there hasn't been a place that I have not been where there hasn't been a shrine or something dedicated to Bob Marley. He didn't just get he got his message out into the world. Now, he could have been a superstar in Trenchtown, Jamaica. He could have been a superstar in Jamaica or the Caribbean or North America. He got his message out to the world. And to me, what that symbolizes is simply there's a lot of hidden value that exists. There's a lot of diamonds in the rough. There's a lot of gold nuggets. When you think about what Dan Buettner did with Blue Zones, he found the places where people are living healthier, happier, longer than everywhere else. And it was not the places you would expect, right? But they found a way of through practices and behaviors and so forth, really finding ways of optimizing life. And that's, to me, is a missed opportunity, but it's still an opportunity. And I am driven by that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have so many people out there looking to tear other people down to improve themselves instead of uplifting everyone, which is where I'm coming from. It's like we should be uplifting everyone if we can.
Yeah, it does not have to be a zero-sum game, and at the end of the day too, I think what Clay Christensen, the innovation godfather from Harvard Business School. I mean, to some extent he was speaking about how do you think about, life design, and how do you think about, at the end of the day, everything you do, you think about a business, right? It has a vision statement, and everything it does, if it's not supporting the vision statement, you shouldn't do it, right? It represents waste. And, at the end of the day, we should be thinking about what does life success mean for us when we are on our deathbed, whenever that happens. How are we going to give ourselves an A, B, C, D, or F, and what is going to determine what drives that? And, I've done enough focus groups, and I remember doing a focus group once with a priest who did last rites. And he said in all his years, you never heard someone say, I wish I had more money. It was always, I wish I spend more time with family and friends, or did more travel, or so it's ultimately forcing us to think about what we do. And I do think about entrepreneurship and businesses as an extension of us, right? Not necessarily that mantra of it's not personal, it's business. I don't stand by that. I think, you have to live your values through everything you do, including your business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've heard of that tactic, sort of like that deathbed thinking tactic, because a lot of times we don't think that far out. But I think even though it's a morbid thought, you really need to put yourself there and go, when I look back upon my life, do I want to say that I did what I wanted to do, or do I regret the choices that I made? So I think it's really important to actually do that kind of thinking in order to decide where you're going. And I do this stuff all the time when I do futurist seminars and workshops. It's all, tell us about the future, put yourself in that position, and then work backwards to figure out how to get to that point. It's kind of like going through a maze. You know how easy it is to go through a maze backwards, because you know where the exit is, right? But in this way, people don't do that. But I really like to hear more about how you got into this. So it sounds like you said you worked with startups prior to this, and then you decided to just do your own thing, or tell me a bit about your story there.
So very humble background. So grew up in one of the roughest parts of Trinidad and Tobago, no running water, and just bad reputation and everything. But my grandpa and my grandmother and my auntie, they raised me in my formative years. So my mom came to the US, and I was supposed to come right after, and then I got into one of the top high schools in Trinidad. So I spent a lot of quality time with them, and they were just amazing individuals, in spite of our really rough background and, environment, strong values. I couldn't swear. I couldn't show up late, your truth was your, there were lots of really strong values that they instilled in me, which was, I take with me to. So I came to the US, and started off at community college, had no idea what life was going to bring. And a combination of, being right place at the right time, angels reaching out their hands to kind of help me when they had no right reason or rationale to help me. That whole notion of uplifting as you climb, I benefited from that so much. So from there, I got to Howard in DC, got my bachelor's, and then, KPMG, and then Stanford for my MBA. Now, where this all comes together is my grandpa taught his children the tools of the trade. So he was a great mixologist. And my uncle in California, Uncle David, taught me how to make a rum concoction that, was like a family secret for over 60 years. And all the Smith men were always competing to see who could make this version the better version. And so I was that guy in business school, here at Stanford for my MBA, driving around with an orange Home Depot bucket in the trunk of my Saturn everywhere. Like that was just me. I was leveling the playing field. That was my reputation, right? And I was just making this concoction for fun for years. Now fast forward, now in a nonprofit environment and driving innovation, and I got steeped in the whole lean innovation movement. And I'm like, okay, let me see if there's something here. So I got bottles and labels, and no one knew I was squeezing thousands of lemons and limes in my kitchen. And I was just showing up, by day, big corporate guy by night. I'm showing up to parties, selling this illegal hooch, out the trunk of my car. And
I love it.
It was selling like wildfire. It was just like, I'm like, oh my God, there's something here. But that's still not the big aha moment, right? A friend came to me and said, Nigel, I love your stuff, but I cannot do dark rum. Make me a version with white rum. I'm like, white rum? Sure. It's rum plus everything else. So I swapped it out. And it was delicious. It was like really, really good. I'm like, what else can I mix this with? So I tried it with vodka, with gin, with tequila. And suddenly this mixer was just bringing everything to life. So I started showing up with all these different concoctions, and I came to an interesting crossroads, which was, okay, dude, you can create a whole portfolio of different cocktails, or you can create this drink of empowerment. Again, coming back to my culture, I do me, you do you. You know what you like, I know what I like. So it's almost democratizing like the whole cocktail making process. How can I put this in someone's hands so that they can create what they want? So that's the path I went down. The time I had my 2 young daughters, Zurena and Rena, so I came up with the name Zurena. And I was just like, excesses. As an entrepreneur, I got these bars that lit up. I would show up to parties with just a mix. And this is where I realized I had something disruptive. People would come up to me, can I try it with champagne, with wine, with Campari? Wow. It's just like, it was just suddenly like the universe. I'm like, oh my God, this is, someone called it liquid crack. And that, I never got that out of my
If you think about it, you're actually created a platform. It's the Zurena platform that then you just layer the alcohol and other drinks in with it. I love it.
Yeah, so that was it for me to then find a co-packer, someone who can replicate what I was doing and create, an 18-month shelf life version. And, went to market, and this was like back in 2017. And, still, I mean, for the next few years, I was still working full time and doing this on the side and, trying to live that portfolio life. And it was just a lot of, up until that point, it was all idealistic stuff. It wasn't how can I make $1 billion? It was like, okay, I have something disruptive. When I went to produce this, I remember getting into a whole bunch of arguments with the manufacturer. You're like, dude, are you crazy? You can use high fructose corn syrup, cut your costs in half. You can like add preservatives, put it in bottles. When you have to ship it, I'm like, no, this is my grandpa's recipe, has my daughter's names on it. People are putting too much crap in their bodies. This has to be as healthy as possible without compromising taste. And that's how we ended up with that original version. And in hindsight, I was a little bit ahead of the pack, because right now, I mean, this is the interesting thing for me, just from my vantage point. When I came out with this, folks would look at the bottle with like the all natural stuff floating around, and you're like, what is that? Is that good? Is that safe? I'm like, yeah, it's all natural. You just got to shake it up. Fast forward to today. I mean, I did a farmer's market a couple of days ago where all natural is like, it's like expected, right?
Exactly.
It's all natural, sodium free, gluten free, fat free. And they're like, is it also certified kosher? So now it's like folks are getting to the extreme extreme where it's like they want everything, right?
Yeah.
So to some extent, we have this amazing product that's not just healthy, not just high quality, but it's as healthy a mix as you can get. So that was the evolution. And, it was a few years of that roller coaster ride of learning from the market. And, last year came full time, made some changes to the product. So adjusted the label, added a new SKU. And now it's just like amazing momentum, especially in the last couple of months. We just got placed into the largest supermarket chain in Texas. So that was
fantastic. HEB?
Yeah, HEB. So 82.
Oh yeah, I go to Austin all the time.
Yeah. So
Are you in California yet? I want to try this stuff.
one step at a time, one step at a time. And right now we're getting on board with a couple of major distributors. So it's kind of like 2022 is going to be our year to super accelerate and soar. So it's really exciting to see the full circle happen.
So tell me about the transition from your full-time gig to this. So you were doing this as kind of like a side hustle, and you saw that there was a lot of demand and everything. It's like, what made you, what was the final like straw that told you, oh, I got to do this full time. I got to give up my job.
Well, it was a combination of, we had a corporate restructuring, and it was a big decision point of, okay, do I stay? Do I try to do something else, or do I leave? Do I leave with a package and try to really make this happen right now? And it was, for me, it was a lot of, I was always worried. So for years, I'm like, should I make this jump? Should I make this leap? I have this support group, a Stanford entrepreneurship group out here in DC, and I've been part of this group for the last 3 years. And I can't tell you how many times they have sat me down in the middle of a circle and was like, dude, you got to make the leap. You got to make the leap. And as someone with 2 young kids, there's always all these reasons why I shouldn't, right? Finally, I made a declaration. This was a couple of years ago, June of 2020. That's the time I was going to make this leap. And of course, COVID happened. So suddenly there was another reason to just delay, right? So when this happened, it was just like okay, this is a sign that now is time. And it just felt like if I didn't do this now, I would look back at this moment forever and regret. Or I'd look back at this moment forever and think, well, what if you had, So someone said, it's like, if I do it now and it doesn't work, at least I know. And I can always get back in the corporate game. But if I don't do it now, I'd always wonder and regret. So the big, I would say, accolade to me just really came from deciding to not re-enter the workforce and just really focus 100% on this magical entrepreneurial path.
Well, it's funny because I did the similar thing, and what ended up happening is that I kicked myself afterwards. I said I should have done this earlier. I should have done this 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or I should have gone to become an entrepreneur much earlier in my life. But the moment is the moment, right? You have to find the right moment.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is I spoke at the United Nations about 2 years ago, and the thesis was the best age to become an entrepreneur, to become a tech entrepreneur specifically, was age 45. And because that's the age that you have all this knowledge and experience, and you need to know the code, you can hire someone to build the code and everything. And, and to some extent, it's like, when I think about, if I had become an entrepreneur when I was younger, and I'm not knocking entrepreneurship at younger ages at all, but I've put in so much of my own money. I've completed bootstrap to date, and it's been hundreds of thousands of dollars to just get Zurena to where it is right now. And it was a lot of learning. It was having a learning mindset. I always say there's a difference between innovation and entrepreneurship, right? So a good example is I got into all of the liquor stores in one of the counties here in Maryland, and the entrepreneur would have been, let's hustle and sell as much as we possibly can. The innovator in me was like, oh my God, what a wonderful path for opportunity for learning. So in these 3 stores, you're going to do nothing. In these stores, we're going to do tastings. In these stores, we're going to do shelf talkers, just to understand like what is moving, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the best decisions in the world, because I would have potentially have been pushing a product with the wrong label and, just been driven by artificial sales, instead of knowing we needed to adjust our price point and adjust our label and take the word love elixir off the label. I mean, there was like a lot of things that we learned by just taking that approach. And so it in hindsight is a hell of a thing, right? Right now I'm sitting where I am right now and thinking, wow, it's like the time is now, not 2 years ago, but now, really, for this acceleration to happen. That's one. Two, it's like so much learnings. It's like I have so de-risked this product. 3, just from my Stanford Home Depot bucket to now there's literally been thousands of focus groups, just it's like, so there's just been so much that's getting to this point right now where I kind of have like the perfect product, the ambitious vision, the wherewithal and everything to really pull this off and make this happen. And so it's almost like it happened the way it needed to happen. But along the way you couldn't really tell. But right now I'm like, yeah, it's like the right script that was just executed.
Yeah, but that's interesting because 45 is 10 years too late for Silicon Valley. By the time you hit 45, you're has been. By the time you hit 36, you're has been. But anyway, that's another story. Although you were talking about
maybe that's
older
maybe that script
entrepreneurship.
needs, yeah, no, but maybe that script needs to change, right? And that's
Yeah.
I know one of the things we are speaking about is future trends, but the demographic shifts are real, right? I know we got a hit last year because of COVID and life expectancy went down a year and a half, and of course the disproportionate impacts on Black and brown folks, was there. That said, prior to COVID happening, I was describing it as an aging revolution, with 10,000 people a day turning 65 and 85 being the fastest growing age demographic and 100 being the second fastest. And and to me, like the biggest shift that I think will hopefully happen over the next few years is that, people are going to stop planning to, okay, I'm going to retire at 67 and then start living incremental years until they pass on to, I'm going to plan for 100 years. Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, but that will give me opportunities to rethink career pathing, right? So maybe it is the optimal time to be an entrepreneur is around 45 after I've gone out in the world and learned a few things and saved up some money and able to really do this the right way. So I do think some of these models of life planning and career planning will evolve as a result of the demographic shifts.
Yeah, well, I think we should also investors really need to look at that demographic as well. Instead of, I mean, I remember going on, being at an event here where an investor went on stage and said, "I will never invest in anyone over the age of 35." And I'm like, wait a minute, there's plenty of great ideas from older entrepreneurs, but you never hear about it. I mean, I was in the library the other day. It was like stories of a teen entrepreneur, stories of a young entrepreneur. It's like, where are the stories of the older entrepreneurs? Where is the inspiration for those of us who have that extra bit of expertise and can probably better design and build businesses that are profitable because we have that expertise, because we've been through all that? I mean, where are the investors for that?
Well, I think it is going to be a gradual shift. So, hopefully my story is one of ridiculous success and folks will look at it and say, yeah, he really jumped into this, in his mid 40s, right? We are going to see more and more of these stories. They are undoubtedly going to happen. And, with the shifting demographics, we have folks that are getting older with a lot of knowledge and skills and expertise and have a lot to contribute to society. So, I think we are going to see a pattern shift happening in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what kind of advice would you give to somebody for what not to do in your situation? Like, let's say you've got your corporate gig, but you have a side hustle that you love. Like, what would be? Can you give some advice? The best time to leap and things to do.
So, it's changed how my thinking has evolved a little bit on this, but at one point I was thinking it's like the perfect thing, right? I do one job and de-risk the other thing, and and then when the time is right, make that jump. Here's the problem, and somebody I know and respect a lot, he describes it as being half pregnant, right? Your corporate colleagues, unless you're like really, really good at stealth in like the age of the internet, they're gonna know you have your little side hustle. So guess what?
Sure.
There's gonna be we need to promote one person, not two, and kind of know this person has the side hustle, so maybe they're not in it for the long term. So you kind of are sabotaging yourself on the corporate side, whether you care about it or not. But that is something that's undoubtedly going to happen. On the same token, I can't tell you how many people that would probably not have spoken to me or having conversations with me right now. I mean, right now I'm literally trying to figure out how to do my first raise. I'm looking at close to 7 figures, and you think there's an angel in the entire world that would be willing to write a check if I'm not in this full time? Like, what? You don't care enough about your product to do this full time, but you want me to write you a check?
Oh,
That
yeah.
is the instant reaction, right? So I think ultimately a decision has to be made. Now, the reality is everyone's circumstance is different. What I would say is this, right? I had so many fears that I would be the worst dad in the world, that, like, income is going to be cut off. We won't be able to pay a mortgage. We're going to starve. And that didn't happen, right? You find ways, you find business loans, there are different paths to giving you the runway you need in order to make stuff happen. Now, you have to be agile, you have to be focused, so that that limited runway you have, you can make the most. But it's like, I don't know, that exponential curve in progress in the last few months versus all the years combined. That's what I'm realizing with my product right now.
Yeah. Another thing I found interesting is you were talking about like a little bit of pivoting, right? You were experimenting and pivoting. It's like, where do you draw the line on what to change and what not to change? Because I think this is a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs where they go, well, I've had this much feedback from these customers and they want me to change it this way, but then I want to remain true to my vision. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail when they remain too true to their vision and they don't pivot enough for the customer. I mean, how do you keep that balance?
So I mean, it's tricky and challenging, right? So my last bottle, for example, I personally loved it. It had images of drinks on it. So and it was literally, I think it was like a split, like maybe about 35% of folks loved that to death. It was like, oh my God, there's a drink on here. I know exactly what to do. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any QR codes, nothing, right? But the rest, like, dude, that makes your bottle look cheap. It's not matching the quality of what's inside your bottle. You need to simplify. So there was that constant, the feedback you're getting from different folks. And ultimately, for me, it was a prioritization of, okay, strategically for me to grow, I need to crush it with some early adopters, right? So early adopters on the consumer side, older millennials, younger Gen Xers, a little bit heavier weighted to female, but it still appeals to both male and female. So that was so those were the folks I was listening to the most. And then I do have a business customer as well. So if you're a restaurant owner or bar owner, guess what? You can mix this with anything behind your bar. So happy hour, you're golden. You don't have to invent anything. You have what it takes to just crush it in happy hour. You can mix this with your cheapest reel and come up with a high quality cocktail, and you can charge 10 times the amount, and no one has to know that you're mixing it with the bottles that says rum on it. It tastes like methylated spirit, but with Zurena, it actually tastes really good. So we figured out what the value propositions were, and for that customer, it was kind of two things. One was like, we care about cost more than anything else, and two, yeah, we don't like the look of it. We would never put that bottle on a shelf, but we may consider it if it looks a little bit sexier. So given that it was a prioritization of who we wanted to hear from for that initial, push, knowing that, if we were able to succeed in that initial push, we'd always have the opportunity to come back with a, revisiting the original, like Coca-Cola original, right? We can always bring that back if that's something that's really important.
New Zurena. Classic Zurena.
Exactly. So it is taking some, and following your instinct, following your guts. At the end of the day, I need to be happy. I need to know that I'm, it's like if I make a decision and it comes back, I'm like, okay, at least I followed my gut. And when I think about my gut is really 1,000 neurons in my head pulling from years and years of experience that's telling me to do something versus the other.
Yeah. But you've never had anybody say to you, you need to change your formula, like it's too sweet or it's not sweet enough or whatever.
So strange. Yeah. So that is one, that's the one thing that's on my innovation pipeline, right? So right now we have the best quality product that doesn't compromise with taste. It's low caloric, but it's not 0 calorie. So yeah, when we get to kind of folks in their late 40s, early 50s, folks that are even more super sensitive to health, you know, that's where I've gotten the request of like, have you considered a sugar-free option? Have you considered something that's even lower calorie? And I think it's fair, right? It's a fair request. So that's something that we are actively exploring right now. And, you know, that should be in market sometime in 2022. But right now, you know, just from a Nigel use case perspective, you know, we go through a couple of bottles a week in our home. Not that we drink a lot of alcohol, you know, like my wife mixes it with club soda.
You can drink it straight.
but with our kids, like, you know, they aren't allowed to drink sodas, but they can drink, you know, club soda with Zurena because it is a much healthier option. So the Zurena ginger and club soda makes like an all natural ginger ale, which is delicious, but calorie content compared to any ginger ale that's out there, it's a lot better.
So yeah, well, I would totally buy the sugar-free option, so I can see that. But you haven't had any requests to make any other changes to your formula, right?
No. Okay. It's just the that was one thing, and then of course it's just we are doing 2 SKUs right now. We have a third that's ready for production. So it's always what else are you gonna come out with, you know? So I think there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm for seeing, you know, maybe 1 or 2 additional SKUs, and you know that's gonna happen with time. So again, we have one that's ready to be produced. Just didn't want to confuse the market with bringing too many at the same time.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Makes total sense. So it's interesting you should mention the label, because my brother does wine marketing, and he said that that's a hugely important thing. Like, people are just scanning the labels on the shelves, and any label that sort of sticks out to them, they don't even know what it tastes like. They're just going to buy it because they like the label. You don't have that situation though, because you're in the mixer aisle, so that's a different place, right?
It's a different place, but our bottles are attractive. I mean the coolest thing, you know, someone in the region, like he had an interview, a news interview, and literally he just had the bottle on his desk, didn't speak about it, didn't point it, didn't do anything, but it was just a prop, you know. And so it's something when the bottle is now part of the cool factor. You know, you have this and you feel like you're cool, you know, because yeah, I have this bottle of Zurena. Now think about it from a nightclub perspective. Someone orders a $500 bottle of vodka, and you bring them soda and juice. What if you bring them a nice, sexy-looking bottle of Zurena? So suddenly the experience becomes intensified. So yeah, I'm very happy with where we ended up from a label perspective, and so far, you know, it's positive reception.
It's amazing what you're doing. I applaud you, because this is probably the most difficult place to introduce something new, right? Because this market has been so solidified for so long that it's and I think it sounds like you're doing well. Did you have like a breakthrough moment at one point? And if so, what was that breakthrough moment?
No, the breakthrough moment was when I got into, you know, parties, and folks were like, someone asked me to mix this with Campari, and I was like, are you serious? And I'm not a Campari person, but oh my God, it's really good with Campari, right? Yeah, when I'm sick and I'm drinking Theraflu, I add this to Theraflu. I mean, it's just like it's great with hot. It's good with everything, right? So that was that moment for me. So I've been trained to look for disruptive innovation, and I have a product that does not exist in the world today. There's no universal mixer. You add this to anything, and it creates magic. And that's what I'm loving about this, you know, this product, you know. So the one thing I would say, I have to point out one other thing though. It's I told you there's been a lot of momentum. I'm getting ready for this next phase of accelerated growth. The interesting thing, it almost feels like you know, different chapters in a book, in that for this next phase, I almost feel like I'm starting from scratch, if that makes any sense. No. It's like suddenly it's like, okay, you've just gone to the big leagues, and now it's like
you go to the next stage.
Got to the next stage, and now it's like, okay, supply chain and manufacturing, and so suddenly it's like it's suddenly a different phase of evolution, which is exciting. But it's like the story just continues to evolve and unfold. And for me, the 2 things I I want to maintain as long as possible. You know, it's the values, right? As long as this is my company, and so far it's 100% bootstrap, but it's like, you know, having those strong values within the company and the continuous innovation, right? You know, you mentioned that it's really tough to break through in an industry. I think that's not a challenge. I think that's a real opportunity, right? Most big established organizations, it's really challenging to introduce disruptive innovation, right? Because their systems are designed, their legal and policy, and there's so many things that are inherent. You know, you have relationships that, you know, it is so hard to introduce something new because it's death by a thousand swords. Whereas I'm able to bring something new to the table that someone may have had an opportunity to do but just didn't. So for me, I can never compete from a cost perspective, from a marketing reach perspective. Like PepsiCo just got in the market earlier this year with Neon Zebra. So it is a David versus Goliath scenario. So I have to be agile. I have to pick my spots, you know, to battle and pick my spots to avoid. But it is just for someone who's a strategist, it's exciting to really try and figure out, okay, how do I piece this jigsaw puzzle together in order to win?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So now it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2031. Where will Zurena be? Where will you be?
2031. So 2031, Zurena is a mainstay in just about every state in the United States. It's pick a bar, pick a home, you're gonna see Zurena. And it's like Angus, you know, Angostura bitters. It's something you add into every drink. Yeah. We have a right to be behind every bar, similar to Angostura bitters, and with the right execution, the right relationships, distribution relationships, etc., that is totally doable within the next 10 years. We are also in the Caribbean. It's gonna be a sin if Zurena is not in Trinidad and Tobago, making people happy as well, especially during carnival time. So, you know, it is continuing to grow, not just domestically, but, you know, in international opportunities as well. You know, for me, I see myself a part of, you know, just continuing to be a part of this, continue to lead, as long as it makes sense for the organization for me to lead. I know, I wouldn't say strengths, I know what I love to do. I love to innovate. I love to be a visionary. I love to, you know, figure out like the next pathways to value creation. So, you know, there could very feasibly be a point where I'm like, okay, let's get someone to be that CEO and lead. And I'm gonna figure out like all the new, exciting, sexy ways to take this product to different ways of evolution. So to me, I'm going to be as flexible as possible as we get to that vision of mine, was written as a staple in every personal and professional bar in the entire world. So that is something that I can see unfolding over the next few years.
So do you think that you're going to be able to get like super high level influencers to push your product? Is that part of your marketing strategy going forward?
It is definitely part of my marketing strategy. You know, and the challenge with a consumer market is, you know, our product is one, and it's one thing I've just learned, you know, someone has to taste it, right? If they taste it, they get it immediately. To some extent, a lot of the cocktail mixes that are out there have, I would say, that would sound really bad, but it's kind of messed it up for everyone else, right? So the cocktail mixes are there, syrupy and taste very artificial. So unless you know better, you're like, okay, this is another mixer like that, right? When we've done tastings, it's like a 50% conversion rate. It's like this like, oh my God, this is really good. I didn't expect that. You know, that's the instant reaction we get. But doing tastings at scale is such a expensive, you know, so influencers would make sense, because someone may see an influencer and like, yeah, if that person is enjoying this product, then it's going to give me an incentive to go out there and try it. So we're actually going through an exercise right now to figure out who would be the right influencers for us. and, you know, almost thinking about a bit of a 1-2 punch of, you know, can those influencers potentially be angel investors as well? So they become strategic investors. So that's kind of the path I'm on right now, is really trying to map that out as effectively as possible.
Yeah, I love your measured approach, because a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, I'm just going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this. It sounds like you have a really nice measured approach to that. Is that just your personality, or is this something you've learned over the years?
It's something I've learned over the years. You know, I spent years with consulting, and really forced me to focus, structure, you know, just really problem solve in a very structured way. So again, that's the cool thing about doing this at 45. It's bringing a wealth of experience, you know, stuff that I've done for many corporations in the past. I'm bringing and applying this to myself right now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, this has been really interesting, and I can't wait to try it. When did you say your sugar-free was coming out?
Sometime in 2022. But here's the thing, right? You know, this is 15 grams of sugar per serving. So again, it's really low compared to other options. You add this to club soda, that sugar content almost disappears. You add a splash to your Earl Grey tea or chamomile tea. It's really low, but it transforms what you're drinking into something amazing. Now, I'll share this just with you and your listeners. If you're living somewhere that's snowy and you have to go out there and shovel snow, you add this to bourbon. Ooh. And you pop it in the microwave for like 45 seconds. It has a conversation with your soul. It is so good. It is, I can't describe it. It's just, you know, you're outside of your body looking at yourself and smiling, and then you come back in. So there's so many ways that you can use Zurena. Again, it's all about what you like.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm definitely, you sell online, right? I'm going to go to your website and buy some right now.
And we're on Amazon as well. So yeah, you have a lot of different paths to try.
Awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much. So is there any other contact information? Just go to Zurena.com.
Yeah, go to myzurena.com. Please follow us at myzurena, because we'll be not just pumping out great content, but, you know, letting you know when we'll be coming to your areas, offering discounts and deals and so forth. So we're on all the social platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, definitely Instagram, and Facebook as well.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. It's been great talking with you. This is great.
Great talking to you as well. All right.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.